This week on The Real Housewives of Miami.
An incident happened a few weeks back.
Oh my God.
And I was willing to forgive and move forward from that. Yet last week, it became clear to me that this person chose to continue to
It's very dirty, and I don't like it. Super dirty.
Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome back. Today we're going to be recapping the new episode of The Real Housewives of Miami, Season 7, Episode 7. Let's get right into it. Okay, so this episode begins with Julia. She introduces her two little sons. They are so adorable, little handsome babies. Martina was there too, and they took them to the farm. They're showing them the eggs that the chickens laid. And, good for them. I just really don't like Julia and Martina this season, so it's a little hard for me to, fully enjoy any of the scenes they have. But, it's a, nice, lighthearted scene. So Alexia and Adriana then arrive to the house. It's funny to see Alexia and Adriana. Of course, they just can't help themselves. Now it's like a little competition. Who's the better tia, better auntie? So that was fun to see because Alexia brought them donuts and everything. Julia then gets a FaceTime from Karamo Brown, one of her friends. He calls because he is going to be honored for an event, and he's inviting Julia and her friends. This is for the National LGBTQ Task Force. He's going to be recognized. So he'd like for Julia and her friends to go. So Julia's pretty excited about this. Moving on to Larsa. Larsa actually is moving into a house. She's moving out of the penthouse that she was in for a while. She's getting a house because she says that it feels more like a home. And that's something I've always agreed on, when it comes to a lot of these rich people that have these, very luxurious condos and penthouses. I'm like, yeah, they're nice, but for some reason, to me, no matter how nice and how big and how expensive a condo is or a penthouse, I don't think anything can compare to a house. You know what I mean? But yeah, so she's getting a house. She says that it's 5 bedrooms, nice backyard. So she's meeting up with Stephanie, and they meet with a lady who is gonna reorganize or help or design Larsa's closet. She's into it. So they're looking at a model of what it can look like. Stephanie was kind of getting on my nerves, talking about she's got OCD, talking about every little thing. I'm like, okay, Stephanie, calm down a little bit. So after looking at that, Larsa chats with Stephanie and tells her that she just met with Lisa the other day and that they agreed to make up, so they're just going to coexist. Larsa isn't going to be able to go to the gala because she has something else that day that she has to go to. Okay, so then it is the day of the gala, so Julia is taking pictures, answering questions. Okay, I thought this was pretty cool. Stephanie picks up Marysol, and in the car's center console, Stephanie lifts it up, and she had this whole alcohol and cocktail mix set in there. Which, if you know Marysol, you know that her cockies are the witch of her heart, and it seemed like her and Marysol hit it off. Okay, so then people begin to arrive to the gala. Lisa arrives with her stylist. Alexia and Gertie arrive. Adriana. Looks like Stephanie calling out Lisa worked because she seems to be on time. Julia says that her and Gertie are pretty good. Kiki then arrives with Carmen. Carmen is a model, and she was talking a little bit with Julia because Julia had asked her if she'd done Victoria's Secret, and Carmen said no because back in the day they didn't let transgender models in the show. So the ladies go into the room where all the tables are at and the actual event is in. So they sit, and Alexia kept texting Todd. Todd is telling her that she looks good and all this stuff. She tells Marysol that she was with him the night before and they made out and whatnot. And Stephanie's just overhearing this, and she's just giving her the side eye. Also, Guerdy takes the opportunity to invite them to a party that she's having. She's calling it a celebration of life. It's going to be an all-white party, and they're all invited. Julia's friend, he then goes up to get his award, and he gives this great speech about loving your neighbor and never stop fighting. Well, these ladies definitely took that message of the message of never stop fighting, because we then see that 72 hours later, chaos will erupt. But overall, this event was very nice. No drama, just positivity. Okay, so then it's the next day or a few days later, and it's the day of Gertie's party. Gertie looked really good, and the place was decorated. It was spectacular. But decorating these venues and everything is Gertie's element, so I wasn't expecting anything less. Very, very nice. Julia was one of the first ones there, and when she got there, she wanted to talk to Russell, Gertie's husband, and Julia's like, how are you? How are your boys? I have 2 boys now. And he's just like, I heard. Congratulations. Good luck. She then says to him, I don't know what Gertie has told you, but we definitely had some stuff, but I think that we're on a good path now. And he's like, I hope everyone's able to move forward. I mean, that was it. That's all he was giving her, and I could see it in his eyes. He didn't want to be talking to this woman who has been coming after his wife, because that's his wife. He loves Guerdy so much, but he's also respectful, so he isn't going to be checking Julia or anything. He's just going to be there, being respectful, but not engaging because he doesn't have to. The other ladies then begin to arrive. This is pretty interesting. So the event. The venue, I guess you could say, where the event used to be a church, and Kiki used to come to this church with her mom, but now they've turned it into like an event location. So that's interesting. Kiki brought her friend Carmen to this party as well. Lisa was on time again, so that's good. Then when Marysol got there, so she goes straight to Julia and she says, Gertie's husband is over there. Have you talked to him? And Julia's like, yeah, it was the most awkward conversation ever. So it sounds like this was something they'd talked about before arriving at the event, that Julia was going to talk to him. Julia also says that, she says to Marysol, yeah, but Russ has only heard her side. And I'm like, yeah, that's the only side he needs to be hearing. What? Marysol says, well, it does look like Gertie is trying to move forward, so that's good. Julia also tells Marysol that she met with Todd the other night and that he told her that he is determined to win Alexia over. So at this point, Alexia approaches and so does Stephanie. So Stephanie says, oh, we're talking about Todd again? We had a whole party for him. And Alexia's like, what party? And Stephanie's like, the Greek party. So Alexia's like, that was not for him. It was for all of you girls because all of you all are narcissists. Stephanie says, including you. And then Alexia says, I'm actually not. I'm an empath. I'm not full of myself like maybe you are. So Stephanie says, I'm not full of myself, but all the quotes of the party, they were about Todd. The whole thing was about Todd. Alexia's like, no, they weren't. And then Marysol's like, well, that is still her husband, so come on now. Listen, is Stephanie coming in very hot talking about Todd? Yeah, but I'm going to be honest, I don't like Todd at all, so I really don't care. Go off on him. You can keep going as far as I'm concerned. Gertie then goes to the stage. They present a check to a breast cancer foundation. Gertie then gives a speech about cancer and what it's taught her. She's living life louder. She says she just took an MRI and it came back as she's 100% that bitch. She looked very empowered up there. She then gives a huge shout out to her husband, who she calls her best friend, her soul, her heart. She gives them flowers. It was very sweet. She brings up her sons to the stage. She says that after beating cancer, she's decided to redefine how she lives her life. It was a very nice speech, very touching. And then she says that more things are to come, so just stay tuned. Then they all are sort of having just a little bit of time to hang out or whatnot. Larsa asks them how the gala was, that they went to the other night because she didn't go. And Stephanie's like, yeah, it was pretty great. There was no drama, unlike your party. Talking about Alexia. Stephanie then says to everyone, she can't take it that I keep saying that the party was for Todd. And then Alexia is like, I can take it. I'm just not going to agree that it was for Todd because it wasn't. Stephanie says, okay, maybe the event wasn't for Todd, but it was definitely inspired by Todd. Alexia's like, yeah, you know why it was inspired by Todd? Because Todd is a Greek god. Stephanie's like, okay, now you're just being delusional. So then, as they're talking, Gertie takes the stage again. And she says, before we continue this party, I want to shed some clarity about a situation that happened. I need to set the record straight by telling the truth and exposing the lies, as I'm sure a lot of you guys have known by now. And then the background is full of text messages, screenshots. Everybody was shocked. Everybody was speechless. Gertie says, this needs to happen. Now the truth is out in the open so we can enjoy the night. It was her text messages with Julia. Here's the thing, though. No one really seemed to like this. All the women said this was distasteful. They were like, all her friends are here. We're here. This is about surviving cancer. What is happening? Someone asks. So they rewind the tape to let us know exactly how we got here. So before Russell left, because at this point he'd already left, but before he left, right after he had that conversation with Julia, he told Gertie what Julia told him, that she was saying, oh, we're making progress. So when he says this to Gertie, Gertie's like, what? That's news to me, because when we were at Alexia's Greek party, Julia took it back there. Like, we're not moving forward. So she told Russell that she was going to teach Julia a lesson. And then we see her telling the planner to have these pictures ready to project on the screen whenever she says a certain word. The messages were basically showing that it was Julia who asked her to go to the cruise with her. I'm sure there was probably a lot of things that were also edited out. The thing is, though, it did fall a little flat, the messages, because no one really actually got to like read them. I don't think they did, so they were a little bit confused. Gertie is then talking to Adriana and Lisa, explaining why she did this, and Adriana says to Gertie, like, you have every right to answer, to give your side. But everybody else is talking about how much they disagree with what Gertie did. And Marysol, especially, she's acting all crazy, saying, oh, I'm so uncomfortable, this is so gross, I'm leaving. So Larsa, Alexia, Julia leave because they say that they were here to celebrate life, not to, see personal messages be exposed. I did like that Adriana said to Stephanie, but y'all can't just walk out on her, because y'all said this event is about her surviving cancer. So if you believe that, why are you walking out then? If you actually cared. So then Stephanie goes outside where all the other girls that left are, and she says to them, I'm going to be neutral. I don't agree with the text messages at all. I think it's distasteful, but at the same time, I want to hear both sides. So Alexia kind of goes off on her, and she says, if you want to be neutral and kiss Gertie's ass, then go back inside. And Stephanie's like, that's not what I'm doing. I'm not kissing no one's ass. You need to shut the F up. I'm tired of your barking. Alexia says, well, it's because you're the one that keeps attacking my husband and my marriage. Stephanie says, I'm just trying to be neutral. Maybe this is your norm because you're married to a crazy guy. And then that's when Alexia's like, okay, keep my husband out of this. So this got crazy. They were going forth and back and forth. Stephanie says, listen, okay, I'll never bring him up again. I'll never bring up Todd again. I do think that you're too good for him, yes, but if you want to, I'll never bring him back up. Adriana then goes outside to tell the ladies, it's wrong to walk away. And she also says to Julia, if you feel some type of way about this, go in there and share your truth. But everybody's like, no, don't do that. So then that was the end of the episode. Okay, so here's the thing. I think the only thing that Gertie had against her was the time and place where she did this, because it was a beautiful event, so to kind of put a damper in it with this, I could see how that isn't the best. And I'm not really worried about what the ladies are saying. I'm more worried about her, because this was her event. But at the same time, I do think that the ladies are being way too dramatic. And why didn't y'all have this reaction when Gertie was splashed in the face with water that Julia threw at her? You can't have the selective outrage. Either you're going to be uncomfortable at everything that's not okay, or you're not. So I feel I just feel everyone sort of brushed over what happened to Gertie. Julia threw a drink on her. Gertie gets to do anything she wants. Granted, was it the best plays? No, but you know what? So what? She said, I needed to be heard, so that's why I did it here. But you guys let me know what your thoughts were about this episode. Do you agree with the ladies that it was a wrong time and place and that it was distasteful? Or do you think that Gertie had the right to do what she did? Let me know. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch y'all next time. Y'all have a great one. Bye.